Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. With me, of course, on this Sunday evening is Mike Tagliere. You can find us on Twitter at DanHarris80 and at Mike Tagliere NFL. Tags, how was your Sunday?
It was good. I watched a lot of football. I was actually able to go and stop at my mom's house because, like, for those who that read the primer, you guys know my mom was in the hospital and she was able to come home today. So I went to go stop by and see her, watch the Bears with her for a little bit. It was terrible. But yeah, it's overall a good day.
And that's wonderful. And hopefully, if you guys are watching us live on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros, you can watch as Tags kind of out of the side of his eye, I'm sure, watches the end of the Bears game right now, which is always one of my favorite times to do a podcast with Tags as the Bears game is ending. But anyway, speaking of that, again, we are live streaming this podcast on Sunday night. So if you finish up the games, you want to come hang out with us, come do so, youtube.com/fantasypros. If you're not watching it live, you can catch it tomorrow. It will be up on our YouTube channel right after this. Obviously, it's a live stream. We do 5 of them, including this one, 5 live streams per week. We record all of our podcasts and put them on video. We do waiver wire and stash videos, youtube.com/fantasypros. If you want to do a solid, join like 80,000 other of your friends, go ahead and join us. Click the subscribe button, click like when you appreciate a video, or if you're watching this live stream, go ahead and click like, and then click the notification button so you can be notified anytime we do a video. You ready to get into it, Tags?
Ready, man.
All right, let's start with trust or bust. Let's go to Chase Claypool here. 9 targets, 5 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. It was a tough matchup for him. We talked about this on Wednesday, how it was like, where do we rank Chase Claypool right now? Because he always has the potential at least to get behind the defense. And he comes through here. Now, you had the weird thing where Deontay Johnson was out for a little bit, then came back. But what do you think, Tex? Can we trust Chase Claypool going forward, or is he a bust?
Yes, I trust him. He's out there playing snaps. He's the number 3 wide receiver out there. Deontay Johnson was never going to see the 31% target share that he was seeing in the healthy games. Juju Smith-Schuster has been largely a disappointment. And then you look at the matchups they have coming up on the schedule. I actually recommend going out and trading for someone like Deontay Johnson after this game. They have matchups against the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Jaguars coming over the next 3 weeks. So I think you're going to see the stock of all these guys go up. So yes, trust Chase Claypool.
Yeah, I agree. We love the talent, of course. Can do you feel you can trust all 3 of these receivers? Like, if you roster them, each one of them can be thrown out weekly.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Juju Smith-Schuster was outside my top 30 wide receivers this week, and Claypool was right outside there too, just because I felt like it was either touchdown or bust, and he got that touchdown, so it worked out. But I think for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to offer you a 2-for-1 special here on our next trust or bust Tags, and it's both Buffalo running backs. Devin Singletary finally has the big game. Finally, 14 for 86 on the ground, plus 1 catch for 6 yards. But of course, Zach Moss, 14 for 81 on the ground, plus 2 touchdowns. So you can take them one at a time. You can take them both together. Trust or bust Buffalo running backs.
I mean, is this a big game for Devin Singletary?
10 PPR
points?
This is a huge game for Devin Singletary, which probably tells you all you need to know about Devin Singletary.
Yeah, for sure. Zach Moss is the one that I'm more interested in. We talked about this in the Start Sit podcast this week, and Yates and I agreed that I had Zach Moss ranked higher than Devin Singletary because I felt like his role was increasing. Again, we'll go back and look at snaps, we'll look at routes run and all that stuff, but neither of them are being involved very much in the passing game. So you're basically looking for the guy that's going to get the goal line carries, and it's clearly Zach Moss, and he's doing well with that role. So Zach Moss, I'm not excited to own either of these running backs, to be honest with you. I did my rest of season rankings, updated them, and I have Zach Moss at RB 33, and Singletary at RB 39. So it's just, we're at the time of the year where trade deadlines are coming up, and basically I'm ranking them on how I'd want them on my roster. And I don't think that having either of these guys on your roster is going to help you in a fantasy championship. So I'm putting them lower than what their value probably actually is.
Yeah, you and I have basically been in lockstep on how we rank Moss and Singletary. You know that I have a comparison of our rest of season rankings every week for What's Your Problem, Man. Yep. We are almost in lockstep the entire season on how we are ranking right now Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. And I'm with you as well. It's just, it's going to be really difficult to feel that you can confidently start either one. So I guess to the extent they have to be classified as something, they would be bust because we're not trusting them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. But as we talk about every week, when you get to that RB3 territory with all these teams on bye, you kind of you need some running backs to fill your spots, and they can do that for now.
You may start them, of course, but that doesn't mean that we're trusting them. I got you. All right, let's go to What's Your Problem, Man, and let's start with Corey Davis. You had him 61st in your rest of season rankings coming in here, Tag. That's wide receiver 6, but I mean, 10 targets, 8 catches, 128 yards, and the touchdown. he has basically not failed to produce anytime he's been in the lineup this year, whether it's by finding the end zone or getting the yards. So what's your problem with Corey Davis, Tags?
What's weird is I'm usually the guy that's high on Corey Davis.
Right, exactly.
But I actually tweeted out something earlier this week that he had scored, I think, at least 11.8 PPR points in each one of his games this year coming into this week. And then he did it again here, getting 10 targets. That's obviously massive. And I talked about the possibility of Corey Davis being this year's Devontae Parker. He was a guy that did, like, if you go back to last year, he struggled with Ryan Tannehill. And I blame part of it on the fact that AJ Brown and Ryan Tannehill were working with the backups when the season started. And it was like something like, okay, is there a connection between those two? And it kind of worked out. And then Corey Davis had the whole offseason. It's like, can Corey Davis be a thing? But then I lowered my expectations when Corey Davis, basically they didn't pick up his option. So he's going to be a free agent after this year.
Right.
He's probably going to be elsewhere because I think he wants to go somewhere he's going to get consistent targets. But he looks fantastic right now. So you're correct for calling me out. He's been moved up in the rankings moving forward. I have him just inside the top 50 wide receivers now.
Yep. And again, there aren't that many guys that you and I significantly disagree on. So It's not that I had him 51st coming in. So it wasn't like I was like, he's a wide receiver 3 going forward. But I certainly thought that he was somebody who was at least getting into the wide receiver 4 range. And I think he is there. Let's next go to Jared Cook. Tags, you had him 12th, not egregious or anything like that. Yates and I basically joke about this every week when we talk about our projections and be like, yeah, we've got him like 3 catches, but of course he's finding the end zone, which he did again today. This game is not over yet. We'll see whether or not they're going to kick this field goal here. But 5 targets, 4 catches, 42 yards, and the touchdown. Are you you're starting guys, like Mike Gesicki over him going forward, or are you moving him up a little bit?
I don't know.
And I say Mike Gesicki because Mike Gesicki was a spot ahead of him in your rest of season rankings coming into today.
Yeah, I'm still not excited about him, though. I mean, with Michael, you're talking about Jared Cook. You said, I just wanted to clarify.
Correct. Yes, Jared
I'm
Cook.
hearing so many different names and thinking so many different things right now. The Bears are about to try a game.
I know. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you watching? It's fine.
I am kind of watching, but I really don't. Part of me doesn't really care all that much because the Bears are not a 5-2 team. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. But Jared Cook, I mean, Michael Thomas coming back to the offense is going to lower, and it's good crap.
For you new listeners, welcome to the point in the podcast where we hit a late Bears game and they're playing right to the end. Last year it was all about Trubisky. Anyway, go ahead, Tags.
It's a tie game. It's going in overtime. But I mean, I'm not excited about Cook. He's been a guy that's, even with Michael Thomas out of the lineup, the targets have been very, very, very inconsistent. And then you add Michael Thomas back in, you're going to have Emmanuel Sanders back next week now that he's expected to be back. Kamara's not going anywhere. So all of a sudden these targets are evaporated and you're looking at a touchdown or bust. It's not to say that Breeze isn't going to throw more touchdowns than most quarterbacks would, but I mean, I feel like he's teetering on that low end tight end 1 conversation. So,
all right, fine. I mean, I'm 8th. There's not a big difference between these guys, but I feel like you and Yates in the preseason, coming into the year, you've just been so off on Jared Cook. And eventually you just kind of have to accept that this guy does produce and he does catch touchdowns.
That's like, hold on a second. I want to defend this one for a second.
Go ahead.
Just because I'm going to pull up his stats because I remember looking through it and I was like, it's still gross. He's the tight end 21 on the year. They already had their bye, but looking at it, he's topped 52 yards 1 time. That was back in week 1.
It's true. How many touchdowns does he have in the year, Tags?
He caught 1 today, so it's his 4th touchdown.
Yeah, and he missed a game, didn't he? Or at least 1, if not 2.
He did.
And they already had to bye. He's going to catch the touchdowns. He's going to be involved there. So it is something where, whatever. I'm not going to kill you for it. But either way, he definitely fell in. Oh man, in the end of the Chargers Broncos game. Just insanity. All right. Anyway, let's get into the games today, and let's start not with one that is still going on right now, but one that ended long ago, and that's the Steelers 28 and the Ravens 24. We talked a bit about the passing game here. Mm-hmm. Let's talk, specifically because Juju Smith-Schuster did have the 8 targets, at least 7 catches, 67 yards, but Deontay Johnson just 3 targets, 1 catch, 6 yards. He did leave briefly here, but this is somebody who you're willing to kind of roll with going forward. Is that right?
Yes, I think he's a buy low. I still have him as a top 24 wide receiver the rest of the season. I'm buying. I am buying all day on Deontay Johnson. He is the best wide receiver on that team.
Okay.
I'm convinced of that. Juju Smith-Schuster, the targets were there. He didn't have his first catch, which is weird because he ended with 7 catches,
Right.
67 yards. He didn't have his first catch, I think, till the second half.
Right.
Marlon Humphrey was a tough matchup. So Juju has taken a step forward the last 2 weeks, but I don't think it's going to be very sustained. I'm fading Juju.
So give me a rough range. You had Juju 32 coming in. Is that about where he's going to stay then going forward?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
I have him at 31 right now. I have Deontay Johnson at 22. And then Claypool is a guy that's right around that 36 range. So, again, Claypool is third in snaps in that team. He's going to offer more weekly upside than Juju Smith-Schuster, it seems, but he's going to be a little bit bumpier in terms of his floor.
Yeah, we are, again, just like the Bills running backs. We're pretty in line here with our rest of season rankings on both of these guys. So I'm in agreement there. Meanwhile, James Conner, 15 for 47 on the ground. Not that impressive in a tough matchup. He does find the end zone, though. He gets 3 catches for 13 yards. Just set him in your lineup tags and be done with it. Like nothing to think about with Connor.
Yeah. I mean, what's weird, Dan, I go through the running back rankings and I want to lower Ezekiel Elliott, but I can't. Like I look at the running backs there and you're just like, once you get outside the top 5 running backs, you're kind of like, you just throw your hands up and you're saying, is there anybody else out there who's like, you feel the need to? I can make a case for my RB14 to be up at RB6.
Right.
It's like a giant cluster, and James Conner is reliable in there. So I have him towards the high end of that range. I have him as my number 7 running back for the rest of the season.
Yep.
I don't feel great about it, but at the same time, he's getting the touches.
Yeah, that's the thing. And he is getting them near the goal line. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, item 9th coming in, he'll probably move up to 8th. We'll see what happens with Zeke here in the Sunday night game. For the Ravens, big loss on their offensive line with Ronnie Staley out for the season. No Mark Ingram here tag. So both the backup running backs that everybody was thinking about, they both produced. Gus Edwards, 16 for 87 on the ground, plus a touchdown. He did leave briefly, but he came back. Meanwhile, J.K. Dobbins, 15 carries, 113 yards, plus a catch for 8 yards. It sounds now, there was a report this morning, like Ingram may be out for next week too against the Colts. Tough matchup. Can you start Dobbins and or Edwards next week against the Colts?
Yes, I started Dobbins. I moved him up to RB 20 or 21 this week. Even though it was a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, he's a guy that you kind of take it, right? He's got fresh legs. He hasn't been used a whole lot this year. He's a rookie. He's a guy that has one play upside. When you give a running back like that 15 touches in a game, he could break him at any point. He had a 28-yard run in this game. He wasn't heavily involved in the passing game, which is something I think Lamar Jackson needs to do a little bit more to build his confidence and like literally just move the ball down the field consistently. But J.K. Dobbins, love him. Yes, he will be ranked. As long as Ingram's out, I'm going to tell everybody to start him every week.
Yeah, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon sometimes when he got that ball. It really looked great. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson struggles tags. I mean, he gets the rushing yards to get there, but 13 of 28, 208 yards, 2 interceptions. He does throw 2 touchdowns to Miles Boykin and Hollywood Brown, neither of whom puts up any yards. Mark Andrews, just 32 yards. He does have 6 targets. I guess let's talk about Brown here, tags, because I think we talk about him most weeks and we're like, I don't know. We bump him up, we bump him down. How do you view him going forward?
You know, he's someone I do a buy, sell, hold thing during like right towards the end of the games that are going on. And I put Marquise Brown in the buy column. And I'm saying that because he's a guy that's seeing a very, very consistent target share. This game was going to be tough. We were looking for that big play. It just didn't happen. It was a little bit messier of a game than we thought. Yeah. It was pouring when right before the game began. And then the rain subsided, but still, it wasn't like a pretty game. But Lamar Jackson's been bad as a passer. Let's not dance around that. He's been terrible. So you're basically buying Marquise Brown as a wide receiver 4. I think that there's people that drafted him thinking they had top 15 upside. Yep. And I think at this point, they've realized that's not the case. And they're just like, you know what? I'm willing to sell for wide receiver 4 prices. I need some more consistency. If you're buying at those prices, I kind of like it because you're getting a guy that is getting targeted, a guy that if Lamar Jackson does return to that 2019 form, that, you know, that MVP form that we saw, all of a sudden you have yourself a guy that has that top 15 upside because the target share is there. The air yards are there. He's frustrating for sure. I'm usually lower on Marquise Brown, but again, I think his price has fallen to the point where I might be a buyer.
Yeah, I mean, we both had him item 30th, you had him 27th coming in. You're dropping him a little bit there, but not too far, it sounds like?
Yeah, I put him at 32.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's
I'd be
fair.
Torn between someone like him and Antonio Brown. Right now, it's difficult. I don't know how to feel about it because Mike Evans, it's like I keep lowering him, and I have him at 25 right now, and I feel like it's too high. Like I feel like I need to move Mike Evans down further, but
yeah. You also had this report, by the way, earlier today about how Godwin originally, the original prognosis was 4 to 6 weeks, and now he's week to week. So I don't know whether or not he's going to necessarily be back in week 9, even though there is optimism. So it's really tough with the Bucs guys. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you on Brown, at least that, yeah, he's still most likely a wide receiver 3 to me. And he did catch the touchdown, thankfully, to save his value. But yeah, I was also a little excited about him coming into the year. I thought with Baltimore probably passing more than their historically low numbers last year, that Brown would be the beneficiary after he put on muscle, but really hasn't been there. At that point, still, though, if you can buy him at wide receiver 4 prices, I would do that. Let's go to the Colts 41, Lions 21. You know what we're going to be talking about here because we were talking about it on Slack with Yates, and that's Jonathan Taylor. 11 for 22 on the ground, 2 catches for 9 yards through the air, just 26 snaps. Jordan Wilkins, meanwhile, 20 for 89 on the ground with a score, plus a catch for 24 yards, 39 snaps. Meanwhile, Nyheim Hines catches 2 touchdown passes. Number one, kudos to you for pointing this out originally when you were like, I actually don't think he looks very good weeks ago when I was a staunch defender and being like, oh, he's fine. Look, Taylor got a goal line carry late in the game. He did not convert, and then Wilkins converted after that. Baltimore is next. What are you doing at this point with Jonathan Taylor, Tags?
It's hard to trust him right now after this game. This is out of a bye week. I felt like this could be like the launching point for Jonathan Taylor. It's like if things came together for him, they were going to come together. It was almost like DeAndre Swift coming back from his bye, and you wondered, are the Lions going to involve him more? And I really felt like this could have been the week because the Detroit Lions have been terrible against running backs. And honestly, what we saw from Jordan Wilkins, what we saw from Nyheim Hines in the passing game, that's exactly what we thought Taylor should be doing. But it seems like, and people are saying, you see Taylor come into the game, and you mentioned it, that he was kind of stuffed on that goal line carry, and it was a loaded box, all that stuff. But then when they brought in Wilkins, it's like everything was spread out and it looked better. And you have to think to yourself, you're like, well, it's because he's doing this. Well, if he's seeing those stacked fronts, if he's running into boxes like that, that means Jordan Wilkins offers more versatility. He forces defense to play a different way. And if they're having more success with Wilkins back there, why the hell wouldn't they play him? At some point, you just have to say, damn, whatever we spent in draft pick wise, what is the best way to win football games? And I don't think Jonathan Taylor is the best way for them to win football games right now. I don't think he looks good.
I do wish, like I said to you on Slack, that they would at least give him consistent, like leave him out there for a couple of drives. Like, let's see what he can do if he, maybe breaks down the defense, but they're not doing that. With that said, Tags, next week is going to be against an angry Baltimore team right now. Are you going to start? Are you going to recommend him as an RB2 or better next week against Baltimore? Do you think?
Ooh, I mean, he'll probably be in the. I'm
not going to hold you to it. We'll do a start.
It's like a David Montgomery type territory right now, where a low end RB2 that I'm not expecting a whole lot against. That's probably where I'm going to be at with Jonathan Taylor right now. I lowered him in my rest of season rankings to RB16.
Okay.
I want to lower him further, but it's like, I being that the Colts did spend the draft pick they did on him, I don't think they're going to just give up on him that quickly. But Jordan Wilkins, what's weird, Dan, we didn't talk about him on the waiver wire show, but it's in some leagues that I'm in, it's so deep that it's like, we don't really talk about these guys, but a 14 team league where, we have 18-man rosters. I grabbed Jordan Wilkins in a couple leagues this week because I started to think about, okay, I'm dropping Tony Pollard in some leagues because I don't feel the need to hang on to him. What are some running backs that have tremendous value if that starter were to go down? And I felt like Jordan Wilkins was that guy. So I grabbed him in a couple leagues, and now obviously, he does this where he's going to be a popular waiver wire ad. And I don't think that he's going to walk into this job and start right away, like some people are probably going to talk about. But I think he's a fantastic guy to have on your bench, though.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. And the fact that you did that before we even saw this week, that's right, because he does have the upside that now a lot of these guys like Pollard, who we've talked about, just don't have it anymore because of that offense. So a guy like Wilkins, it's a great call. And I'm sure we'll be talking about him tomorrow on the waiver wire show. Meanwhile, T.Y. Hilton leaves this game, I believe, a groin injury. Jack Doyle catches a touchdown pass, but just 2 for 18. Trey Burton 3 for 9, but he does have the rushing touchdown. Do you roster any non-running back for the Colts going forward?
I don't feel the need to roster any receiver. I think Trey Burton should be. He still led the tight ends in targets. I know that it didn't really go his way. He got the rushing touchdown, but they're using him a lot like they used Eric Ebron, and that has value in fantasy. So I do think that Trey Burton is like a borderline top 15 tight end for the rest of the season.
Right. Yeah. That's the closest that you can get. Is really where it was. Yeah, I had Burton 14th coming in. That's it. So if you want to roster him, that's fine. You don't have to, though. But I agree with you. There's nothing to worry about with the wide receivers. For the Lions, look, Stafford puts up fancy numbers here, 336 and 3 touchdowns. He does have the pick 6. Kenny Golladay leaves with a hip injury here, Tags. I haven't heard anything yet about the severity of it, but let's start with the running game before we look at the wide receivers. A tough matchup with the Colts. Adrian Peterson, 5 for 7 on the ground. DeAndre Swift, 6 for 1 on the ground. He does have 3 catches for 22 yards. Meanwhile, Kerryon Johnson is the one who catches the touchdown pass. Let's talk about DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about him here, Tags? He's got Minnesota, Washington, and Carolina in his next 3 games.
Yeah, we've talked about him before on the show, and we talked about him on the Start Sit podcast and how I've had concerns about him. Once again, you go into a game where it's like you're expecting him to take a step forward, and this is a timeshare. They're involving everybody. This is not a very good football team where they're going to be ahead in many games. So I don't think you're going to see. I mentioned it when they played the what game was that where Swift kind of had his breakout game where they had 39 running back touches in that game, and it's like, that's not going to happen very often with this backfield. And then you see a game like this where it's like, we're looking at 15 touches between them, and it's like, you can't get excited about him. He's someone that I think it's safer to have someone like David Montgomery on your roster. And I say that with hesitance because David Montgomery is not very good. And it's a very boring play, but at least he's guaranteed touches. Whereas DeAndre Swift, there's going to be weeks where like this one, where he gets like 9 touches and you're kind of like, well, this stinks.
Yeah, no, I had Montgomery ranked ahead of him coming in. Yeah. It's just the excitement. That's nonsense at this point. Give me boring and reliable at this stage of the game. And that's David Montgomery. And that's who I would much prefer to somebody like Swift. Meanwhile, let's assume Galladay's out here. Okay. Marvin Hall, 7 targets, 4 catches, 113 yards. Marvin Jones, 7 targets, 3 catches, 39 yards, but 2 touchdowns. Do either of those guys have value going forward if Galladay is out, or is this just more of like a bump for TJ Hockenson, who saw 10 targets, caught 7 of them for 65 yards?
That's where the biggest value bump is, because Hockenson was not even involved before Galladay got hurt, and then we saw a major bump in his production. So that's definitely Hawkinson's the one who benefits most. Marvin Jones, he struggled when Galladay was out the first couple of games this year. He didn't really do anything with his opportunity, and touchdowns have saved him, where he's had 1 good game this year, really. So I mean, Marvin Jones, if Galladay's out, I think projections are probably going to bring him in as like a low end wide receiver 3, but I don't think you're
Minnesota next. I mean,
they're down. Like they have 3 or 4 cornerbacks now that they're down, and it's ugly, man. So Marvin Jones is, definitely. He's going to be someone that you're going to want to start next week.
Right. Yeah. Let's see what happens there with Galladay, because you may have to hold their nose and just start him. And again, unfortunately, Jones is the type of guy, as we always used to joke about with, when he would be matched up with Xavier Rhodes, and everybody would have him ranked 50th. He'd go off for 4 touchdowns. So we'll see how he does in the good matchup. Again, assuming Galladay is out. Let's go to the Raiders 16, Browns 6. This was one of the many games that had a huge, was greatly impacted by the wind. It moved fast, at least. Josh Jacobs, 31 carries, 128 yards. Unfortunately, he gets stuffed 3 straight times from the 1-yard line to prevent the really big fantasy game. I don't really know if there's much to say here, Tags, on Josh Jacobs. I mean, are you starting him as probably a top 12 back, top 10 back going forward?
I think I have RB 12 actually. Okay. Exactly.
Jacobs or Connor going forward?
I like Connor.
Jacobs or James Robinson?
James Robinson.
Okay. So again, he is a little bit of a step behind. The carries were great. Obviously, he's been dealing with some banged up injuries. He had the O-line concerns, and you had Trent Brown here, who unfortunately had the whole IV mishap, missed the game. But again, he is somebody, they're going to lean on him, especially in a decent matchup. He's a must start. And going forward, I agree with you. He's basically at the low end of an RB1. For the passing game, again, totally wind here. Car attempts, just 24 passes, 112 yards total, 1 touchdown, which goes to Hunter Renfrow. Darren Waller is your leading receiver for the Raiders with 28 yards, next to nothing from Henry Ruggs, literally nothing from Nelson Aguilar. Are you drawing any conclusions here from this passing game, Tags, or are you just throwing it out because of the wind?
No, it was a crappy game on both sides of the ball. That goes to Cleveland as well. Baker Mayfield did not look great. Jarvis Landry dropped a couple passes. Kareem Hunt. Oh man,
so we're getting there. Let's just get there then. Tags. Forget about the Raiders then, unless you want to say anything.
I just want to say everybody was a crapshoot in this game. Like every single player. Darren Waller, someone I would go out and buy low on. Because coming off a game, 5 catches for 28 yards, I think people are going to want to disassociate themselves from the Raiders offense as much as possible, because they think there's inconsistency, but there is massive consistency with Waller. He's a guy that I go out and trade. And if you have to sell a high-end wide receiver 3 to get him, I'm more than willing to do that, because you could find streamers at wide receiver. Streamers at tight end are very, very difficult to find. But as for Kareem Hunt, man, so disappointing. I mentioned it on Twitter, and I really felt like it was going to come back and bite me, because I posted something that he had not had more than 86 rushing yards in a game this year. He had not had more than 24 receiving yards. And I was like, and I posted a thread to it, and I said, to be clear, he's going to crush this week against the Raiders. But I found it as a very interesting stat. And then you go and you're like, you see this game and you're like, oh, this team really misses Nick Chubb bad.
Yeah.
How do you value Kareem Hunt moving forward? How do you value Nick Chubb moving forward? Because he is rumored to maybe come back after their week 9 bye. So how do you value these guys going forward?
It's really tough because we don't know whether or not he's going to be back. There was talk that Chubb may be back in week 10, but then I saw something that threw a little cold water on it. If they do come back, I think we go back to what we thought coming in, which is that Chubb is going to be roughly a low end RB1 probably, or maybe a little higher than that. And Kareem Hunt's going to be more of a mid-tier low end RB2. They're going to lean on the run game even more than they would before because there's no Beckham right now. This was just a weird game, man. It was just, it just didn't go. I agree with you. This is sort of the process over results. It's not like it was a bad. I think I had Kareem Hunt as my number 2 running back this week. I mean, what do you want? It was the spot for him. How do you feel? I realize it's the win game, but how do you feel about Landry? He did see 11 targets. I mean, he dropped one. He had the touchdown that was originally called a touchdown that was then overturned. He catches 4 for 52 yards. Again, nobody else does anything. Rashard Higgins just 1 catch.
Oh, I'm not sure if Dan cut out for a moment there, so I'm just going to pick up. I know he was asking me about this Jarvis Landry situation, so I will say that Jarvis Landry is someone that I do trust Landry as I'll say a low end wide receiver 3. I think he lacks upside in an offense. Again, we talked about this in the waiver wire podcast, Dan, about Rashard Higgins, and I just don't trust this offense very much in terms of them throwing the ball. I think they want to throw the ball fewer than 30 times per game, and that's a problem for any wide receiver, especially when you have Austin Hooper going to be back in the offense. They're going to involve Kareem Hunt in the passing game a bit more when Nick Chubb comes back. My question to you, Dan, is if let's pretend that in a league that you're in, you're 5-3 after 8 weeks and you're looking pretty good. You feel like you're going to make the playoffs. If you have Jonathan Taylor, would you trade Jonathan Taylor for Nick Chubb?
Yeah. First of all, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. My internet connection is apparently unstable. We've got a big storm going on. I literally had that message crawl across my screen. Would I trade Jonathan Taylor for Nick Chubb was your question, right?
Yep.
Yes. The answer is yes. I would do that. I don't know if you can do that though right now, Tags, because of what Taylor looks like. Like there's no way that you are rostering Taylor and you're feeling comfortable, or that you're looking at Taylor as a trade target and feeling comfortable with it. Can you? I mean, if you've been waiting this long for Nick Chubb, I'd be highly surprised if somebody's willing to give it to you now on the eve of him coming back. Don't you think?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's why I wanted to ask you about it, because I was so torn on the entire situation that it was like, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm getting lower and lower on him, but this offense just didn't look great. And it hasn't for a couple weeks now. Kareem Hunt hasn't been the running back that we thought he would be, basically taking over for Chubb. So is it the offense, or is it just the fact that Nick Chubb is really damn good?
I think it also might be that Hunt's not built to be like the guy at this point right now, where he was battling injury for most of the season anyway. Coming in, he had the groin, he had a little bit knocked up here. I think they just work better when Chubb is the lead back, and then Hunt sort of is the quote unquote change of pace back and gets more involved in the passing game. So I do think Chubb is going to be a smash spot when he comes in, and if you can get him for Taylor, I would.
Cool.
Let's go to Chiefs 35, Jets 9. I did have the Chiefs laying 19.5 points. Tags, thank you for asking. Huge spot here for everyone in the passing game, kind of as we expected. Patrick Mahomes, 416 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 2 to Tyreek Hill, who totals 98 yards, 1 to Travis Kelce, who has 109 yards, 1 to Mecole Hardman, 96 yards, 1 to Demarcus Robinson, 63 yards. I'm assuming here that Sammy Watkins is either going to be back next week or he's coming back soon. So I don't really think we need to talk about Hardman or Robinson unless you have anything important to say about them, Tags.
Not really. Mecole Hardman, people are going to attach themselves to that, but you can't do it. I mean, this is his snaps, his routes have been all over the place. Like Andy Reid consistently shows us that he's not willing to trust him. You need basically back-to-back weeks before you can trust this guy in fantasy lineups. If you're looking for a desperation play on the waiver wire at some point and you just want to toss him in there, that's fine. But again, you can't expect any consistency out of him. So he's actually outside my top 50 wide receivers for the remainder of the season. Demarcus Robinson only has viability if Sammy Watkins is out. But I do expect Sammy Watkins back next week.
100% agree on all of that. In a game where the Chiefs controlled the entire way, Edwards-Helaire 6 for 21 on the ground, plus 3 for 10 through the air. Le'Veon Bell 6 for 7 on the ground, plus 3 for 31 through the air. Just your thoughts generally here, Tags, on the Kansas City running game.
I'm at a loss for words, to be honest with you. I mean, you have a team that legitimately might be the number one offense in the NFL, and the running backs just aren't producing under Andy friggin' Reid. Like, what is going on here,
Yeah.
right? At some point, it's just, you have to say the production needs to be there. And last week, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that was really a mess of a game in that snow. So I didn't really want to take too much away from it. This one, the Jets, Dan, you and I talk about this all the time. The Jets are a terrible football team. However, their run defense has been better than people think it's been over the last 2 years. So to see them struggle on the ground is not too surprising, but to see just, 12 carries between Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell in this game that they won 35-9, clearly they just don't want to run the ball very much.
Yeah. And they don't have to, because they can move the ball through the air even when everybody knows that they're passing. And again, the Jets do have a decent run defense. They give a lot of touchdowns to running backs, but overall their run defense is better, I think, than people think. So I guess, but man, the fact that Le'Veon Bell did not have a revenge game touchdown here might be the biggest surprise of week 8. To the Jets, it's really not fair to look at anything when Jamison Crowder is out. Sam Darnold also got banged up at the end of this game. I don't know whether or not that's going to threaten his availability going forward, but Denzel Mims got some work early. He was somebody who I kind of liked in this game. I had him almost, I think, ranked as a borderline wide receiver 3, because I did think that this is what was going to, I really thought that this was going to be a game for him, and it wasn't. Only 2 for 42. Braxton Berrios sees 11 targets, 11 catches, 8 of them for 34 yards. Yeah. Frank Gore is still your leading rusher, 10 for 30. LaMichael Pirine, 33 total yards on 10 touches. I thought Pirine would get a little more involved here. Is this just the usual deal? Tags do not start any Jets player except Jamison Crowder whenever he's active.
That is the correct answer.
Okay. That's all I wanted to hear.
I actually, Dan, by the way, I told my son, just so you know how it's creeping into my world of what you do to me. Like you've like just snuck up in my brain and like planted something there. Or my son did something the other day and I was like, that's the correct answer. Yes.
Well, that's good. I like it. I think I've started to branch it out more, where you said something and I said, that is the correct question. So we're just going to keep it going until we go. Bengals 31, Titans 20. Gio Bernard, 15 for 62 with the touchdown, plus 3 catches for 16 yards and a second touchdown. He produced, if Joe Mixon's out of the lineup, Gio Bernard will produce. I was a little nervous about it because of the fact that every offensive lineman that they had was out, but he produces when Joe Mixon's out. So let me ask you this, Tex. They have a bye next week. Okay. Joe Mixon has a foot sprain, which I have heard nothing about whatsoever. Nothing at all. We know foot sprains are tricky. Is Bernard someone who fantasy managers should hold on to through this bye in case Mixon's injury is bad, or even just because he's so clearly one of these high-end handcuffs that we were just discussing, and just even with the roster crunch, hold on to him through the bye?
That's exactly why. Yes. Because he has value right now, as in case Mixon misses games right now. We already know Mixon's not 100%. I do think Mixon comes back for what it's worth. There's been beat reporters saying that he's been dancing at practice and stuff like that. So it's not like a crazy injury. But yes, Bernard, that's the thing, is you want to find running backs. That's who you want to have on your bench right now coming into the trade deadline, because you're not going to be able to trade for running backs. You need guys have got it on your bench that basically, if the starter goes down, they are locked and loaded into like 16 touches. Like that's pretty rare to find. But clearly Giovanni Bernard is one of those guys.
Yeah, I was very frustrated this week because I needed a roster spot. I'm stacked at running back, and I was so desperate. I had to clear a spot because I had too many buys and injuries, and nobody wanted Gio Bernard even for like a 1 week. I was asking for something like very low end. Nobody trusted him. That's fine. Now I'm going to hold him going forward, and we'll see what happens there. Meanwhile, despite the win, Joe Burrow throws for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 to Gio Bernard that we just talked about. The other one goes to Tyler Boyd, 6 for 67. Meanwhile, T. Higgins, 9 targets, again, 6 catches, 78 yards. AJ Green quiet, 5 targets, 2 catches, 19 yards. I assume both Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are at this point firmly in the circle of trust, meaning that if you have them, you start them every week, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'm really curious. Obviously, we have the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. Is AJ Green dealt?
Right.
I don't know.
If he's not, are you starting Green most weeks, or does it depend on matchup?
It depends on the matchup. I did downgrade him a little bit in this game just because I knew about the wins there in Ohio. So it was just more like adjusting to that, because AJ Green does have a fairly deep average depth of target. Tyler Boyd got a bump up in the rankings because of that. So Green, down week, sure. But still 5 targets, nothing to scoff at. It's fine. So I'll have him in wide receiver 4 territory most weeks.
Yep, I think that's right. Meanwhile, it wasn't always pretty for the Titans, but most of your guys produce here. Derrick Henry, 112 yards and a score. A.J. Brown does not look great. We were sort of talking about it like, what's going on here? He's not really, doing the A.J. Brown stuff, but in the end, he ends up with 4 for 24 and a touchdown. Ryan Tannehill does throw 2 touchdown passes. Anything there? I mean, the big thing for me that stuck out was, again, Jonnu Smith, only 2 targets, catches both of them for 29 yards. That was sort of the thing that got me a little nervous about whether or not we should start downgrading Jonnu Smith after that hot start.
Yeah. I'm waiting. I want to see the routes after this game because, we talked about it during the start, our DFS podcast, was it, with Joe Bispia? I brought up the fact that he didn't basically run a whole lot of routes last game. And Joe was like, well, I think that might've had something to do with the Pittsburgh pass rush and the fact that they continually blitz. And it was like, okay, that makes some sense. I'll hold back on this one. And then you look at the Bengals matchup and you're like, this is a team that tight ends have absolutely smashed, like legitimately, like constantly top 5 numbers to tight ends. So it was like, all right. And then the win thing came up and I was like, all right, I'm actually going to upgrade Jonnu Smith because he's a guy that his average depth of target is so small. Like they basically give him the ball at the line of scrimmage and say, do your work.
Right.
So I felt like he was gonna have a bigger game, but unfortunately it didn't. So it's like, I have to wait until the routes run come out. That'll be tomorrow. And I'll have some more information here because right now it's tough, man.
All right, let's go to the Bills 24, Patriots 21. They had it. The Patriots had this game. Cam fumbled it late, and the Bills squeaked by. We talked about the running backs already here, Tags, but this version of Josh Allen that we are seeing now over the last few weeks looks a lot like last year's version of Josh Allen, right? I mean, he rushes for the touchdown, but 11 for 18. Now, this is a win game as well. Let's be as fair as possible. There was wind here. 11 for 18 for 154 yards and the pick. He does rush for the touchdown. Stephon Diggs, the only receiver who does anything, 9 targets, 6 catches, 92 yards. Are you moving Allen down your board? I mean, they have Seattle and Arizona next. So are you moving anything down or what?
I mean, Seattle is obviously a good matchup. You want to start quarterbacks in, but I did move them down because of the reliability issue. And if like quarterbacks, like if you have them ranked as a top 5 quarterback, they need to be reliable. Those are the guys that you rely on for every week's starts, right? Right now I have Josh Allen is QB7 for the remainder of the season. I could actually make a case to put Tannehill over him, but if we're looking at like raw points and who's going to score more, I think it's Josh Allen, and that's why I put him higher. I think it's going to be more of a bumpy road with Josh Allen, basically, because he's going to have those sky high weeks. Whereas Tannehill, he's going to have some big weeks, but nothing like Josh Allen's performances. So if you want a floor, if you want Tannehill over him, I have no issue with that. But that's the range I have Josh Allen in right now.
Yeah, I had him 6 coming in. He's definitely going down to at best 7, but I agree. Tannehill was 8 for me, and I could see making that switch. I'm going to have to go back and watch, some of the games again. But yeah, I'm a little concerned there. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, no Julian Edelman or N'Keal Harry, not much in the passing game. Jacoby Myers leads the way with 6 catches for 58 yards. Cam does score the rushing.
Oh, Dan froze up again. I feel like I'm the play-by-play guy that basically is I'm the analyst. Oh, there you are, Dan.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I'm so sorry. My internet connect. We are in a big storm here. My bad.
Shenanigans. So, it's just because nobody wanted to hear about Cam Newton, right? Like
I was going to ask. I think Cam Newton I'm wondering whether or not he started his last game for the Patriots.
I don't think that's going to happen just because like this team has no other answer. Like Jared Stidham is not the guy. Like we've seen him in this offense, even in a small sample size. He didn't.
Don't you want to take a look at him though? If you're the Patriots at this point,
you probably should. But at the same time, people would give them a lot of crap. Because Cam Newton, do you remember the first 2 weeks of this season? Do you remember the victory laps that media all over the place was saying the Patriots are so bright? Would you look at him? And it's like, no, he's still Cam Newton. Like he still runs well. Like he obviously he's a physical freak. He's always been, but he's not that guy. He's not the guy.
If Jacoby Myers is your number 1 wide receiver, you can't expect that much, but I agree with you. What about Damian Harris, though, here, Tag? 16 for 102, plus a touchdown on the ground. Is he somebody who you might consider trusting going forward?
This is the part where I don't know what the Patriots are doing. Like, I don't know why they have not used Damian Harris more. Damian Harris has looked pretty good. This is his second 100-yard game on the ground. How many games has Sony Michel done that over the last 2 seasons? You know what I mean? Like Sony Michel has been crap. And it's like, why are we hiding Damian Harris? He actually looked really good. The matchup is better against Buffalo on the ground than it is through the air. So, but this is a team that should be running the ball an awful lot, maybe setting up play action, trying to get your receivers a little bit more one-on-one coverage, whatever the case may be, because they need it. And Cam Newton's his receiver situation is far from ideal, but let's not pretend it wasn't good. In the last year he was with Carolina that he played. So, Yeah, I mean, Damian Harris, I was wondering what was going to happen when Sony Michel was back, but they haven't activated Sony off the COVID list. He was on IR. I don't even know what's going on with Sony Michel right now, but as long as Sony's out, I don't know. This team just doesn't seem like they're going to win very many games. So it's like, can we even rely on Damian Harris week over week? That's the problem I have right now. So I have him I outside my top 30 running backs for the rest of the season. I think it's around 35 where I have him.
Yeah, ditto. I think I have him a little higher than that, or I will at least when I update my rest of season rankings. But yeah, he's not an RB2 or anything like that. But he is somebody who I think in the right matchup you can throw out there because you know they're not going to be able to rely on the passing game very much going forward. Yep. Dolphins 28, Rams 17. If you didn't watch this game and you had Dolphins players on your fantasy team, you were probably like, yeah, I crushed it. You didn't crush it. Myles Gaskin, 18 for 47 and the touchdown on the ground, plus 3 for 16 through the air. And those 16 receiving yards led the Dolphins in receiving yards. Tua Tagovailoa, just 93 yards passing. He does have that one touchdown pass to Devontae Parker, which I believe was his only catch. Look, the Rams are a tough team. They're tough against the pass. Are we drawing big conclusions from this and downgrading everyone that we see on the Dolphins? Or are we waiting to see what they look like against Arizona next week?
I had already downgraded everybody, the pass catchers, especially the wide receivers for the remainder of the season because Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know if people realize this, he's actually a pretty good quarterback. He loves his wide receivers. He brings on wide receiver value. If we go back to last year, I said that if Ryan Fitzpatrick started, I would be bumping Devontae Parker up in my rankings. I'd be bumping Preston Williams up in my rankings. If Josh Rosen started, I would be moving them down. I'm doing the same thing with Tua. I think too many people are stuck in this idea that you have a rookie quarterback in Justin Herbert that just walked in and straight up crushed it, right? But rookie quarterbacks just don't do that. Like, I understand Tua Tagovailoa is a fantastic quarterback and he's supposed to be very good in the future, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's going to come in and crush it from week one. Like, that's just not going to happen in his first game, especially against the Rams defense. It was a tough matchup, so I didn't expect much out of him. I just don't expect a whole lot of volume. I don't think they're going to let him chuck it up like they did with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I have downgraded everybody in this passing offense, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This was uglier than anybody could have imagined. And that one touchdown that he had, that's on Devontae Parker, dude.
Oh, yeah.
He put the ball where he was supposed to, sure, but Devontae Parker made basically a one-handed catch. It was,
and considering also he was basically mugged on the play. Yes. I mean, there was pass interference on that play. It was a brilliant catch by Parker. Completely. Yes. I agree with you. Yeah, I am as well. I'm downgrading everybody. It was not impressive. And again, a tough matchup, and they led because of the defensive touchdown and the special teams touchdown, but still it didn't look good. It certainly didn't. Yeah. So I'd held off on downgrading too much, but I will be doing that coming up now after this week. Meanwhile, Darrell Henderson, he leaves with a thigh injury. Did he come back, Tags? I saw him leave. I wasn't sure if he came back at the end of the game or he was out.
I think he was out. I didn't see him back. I could have missed it, but yeah, I think he was out.
It's hard. We watch all the games at the same time, and then we immediately do this podcast, so we don't have all the info. But 8 for 47 on the ground. Malcolm Brown, 10 for 40, plus 2 for 16 through the air. And Cam Akers gets involved, 9 for 35, plus 1 for 19. Let's assume that Henderson then is going to miss some time. How do you feel about this running game then if it's just Brown and Akers?
I mean, if it's just Brown and Akers, I think you're going to watch Akers kind of go into more of a 50-50 timeshare. I don't think he's going to get the role that Henderson did because clearly Akers was like far down as the number 3 on this depth chart. And then again, they were leading in this game. The game was 28-10. They were in a blowout and Cam Akers did look good when he got on the field. And I think Cam Akers should get a bigger look than Malcolm Brown. They know exactly who Malcolm Brown is.
Yeah.
So if you just want if you want safety, I think Malcolm Brown's probably the safer play, but if you're looking for upside, Cam Akers, and that's why we were always hesitant when we did our Start Sit podcast to say, oh, you should drop Cam Akers, because we always knew if there were an injury in front of him, it's like, well, this is one of the offenses you probably do want to be tied to for value. But again, it's a 3-way timeshare knocked down to a 2-man, which has more value because they do run the ball quite a bit. Jared Goff, this is, I think, the first game all year where he's thrown the ball more than 33 times. So, can we start a petition to get Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Rams?
It would be good. I will say very quickly with the running game, it is worth noting the Rams do have a bye next week. So chances are that Henderson will be able to recover. And also after that, it's Seattle and Tampa Bay. So it's not exactly the most ideal schedule that you could have going forward if you're looking to add a running back. But yes, Jared Goff attempts 61 passes, 355 yards and 2 scores, plus plenty of turnovers. Robert Woods scores 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. Cooper Kupp, just a tidy little bitty 21 targets. He catches 11 of them for 110 yards. Josh Reynolds also sees 9 targets, just 4 for 44. Is there anything to take away here? Tags on a day is just that Goff threw 1 million passes, and so whatever, it doesn't really matter that Cooper Kupp saw 21 targets or what?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't think this is going to go back to the team that threw the ball over 100, 600 times last year. This is just a pure game script, and the Rams defense isn't going to allow, teams to get way out in front of them. Their defense is too good for that. This was the Rams offense that put them in the situation to throw the ball as much as they did. So I'm not going to take a whole lot from this. I have both Kupp and Woods in that low end wide receiver 2 territory for the remainder of the season. Josh Reynolds should have been benched. Like I'm actually convinced that he might be benched the next time they play, because I think the coaching staff is going to go back and look at that play. The Miami Dolphins had that defensive touchdown, and he legitimately just gave up. It was
not a DK Metcalf effort. I think we could definitely say that.
It was not. And I just looked in the chat, and Ben Goldstein, I'm calling you out. No, I don't just watch Red Zone. Apparently you don't pay attention to our Instagram channels, because if you did, you would know that I have 6 monitors that I'm constantly watching. So no, Ben, I'm calling you out. I don't just watch Red Zone. It is one of the things that's on my TVs, but shut it.
There it is. Don't get tags mad on a Sunday night. With Higbee active tags, can I just assume that you can avoid both Rams tight ends when Higbee is active?
Oh, dude, I'm so far. I put Higbee outside my top 20 rest of season tight ends before this week. He hasn't been running the routes ever since week 1. Basically, week 1 was the last time that he ran more than like 17 routes in a game, and it's just not getting it done. It's kind of gone back to the offense it was just a couple of years ago, where tight ends were almost irrelevant.
I had Higbee 26 coming in. I am done with Rams tight ends. Vikings 28, Packers 22. Dalvin Cook, absolutely preposterous. 30 carries, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, plus 2 for 63. And 1 touchdown through the air again. And that 63 yards was all him, legitimately just a dump off. And he just took it to the house. I don't know what you want to say about Dalvin Cook at this point. When he's fully healthy, one of the top 4 or 5 backs in fantasy, and move on.
Oh yeah. Superstar. I mean, this was a smash spot, and he's a great running back. The only concern with him was about coming off the injury. Is he 100%? Would they involved Madison more? But Dalvin Cook, I mean, when he's running the way he was, you don't take him off the field.
Amazing. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins plays pretty well with what he was asked to do. Just the 1 touchdown pass that Dalvin Cook took to the house. Adam Thielen only 27 yards. Jefferson only 26 yards. Now, tags, just the wind and game flow in this one? Or are you at all worried that because Dalvin Cook looked so incredible, it is going to significantly negatively impact the passing game?
Well, let's be honest. This team it's kind of like the Brown situation, where this team, they don't run a whole lot of offensive plays. Coming into this game, it was always my concern for the passing attack, because coming into this game, I think the Vikings had averaged 58 offensive plays per game. The Packers had allowed just 60 plays per game, which was like 5th in the NFL, the 5th lowest. So it was like, that was always a concern for me with this passing attack, but it was really concentrated on the top 2 guys in terms of Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. But then the win reports came out, and it was like, oh my geez, I didn't even know what to do, because it's like, I didn't want to lower those guys too much, because I never want to overreact to weather. But at the same time, when they're talking about 50-mile-an-hour gusts, it's like, but then Dalvin Cook run the way he is. I mean, I don't really know. Honestly, those are 2 of the hardest players for me to rank in the rest of the season. I'd be curious to know where you have him, because I moved Adam Thielen down. I think he's a sell candidate. As I have him as wide receiver 13 right now, because I feel like he's going to be too inconsistent to rely on for wide receiver 1 production. And then Justin Jefferson, a guy that's a budding star, a guy that's been fantastic when he's been getting targeted. But again, in a low volume offense where he's behind Adam Thielen, how high can we really have him? I haven't wide receiver 26, but I just don't know how to feel about these guys moving forward.
Yeah, I've been consistently higher than you rest of season on these guys. And, I'm not sure. I need to really take a close look, because what I do on Mondays, I go back and I watch sort of the very quick film on pretty much every game to get a sense, because I had Thielen as my number 4 wide receiver tags going forward. You had him 12, I believe, coming into this week. Yeah. And I think you're right. And I think I'm wrong. I think I've just been too bullish on him. With Cook healthy, I think it really does change the offense. And I think that this is what they're going to do. We weren't that far apart necessarily on Justin Jefferson, but I still had him 19th. So I was kind of also higher on him. I think I'm moving both of those guys down. Probably not as far as you, because I do think there are going to be better games for these guys going ahead. But I think you're right. They're probably 2 of the toughest players to rank. And especially this week with the wind, it was really, really just this morning was so terrible with ranking players, because you're just, the one thing you take into account is wind, and you're talking 50-mile-an-hour gusts, and that's absolutely insane. For the Packers prediction tags, they are going to add a wide receiver before the trade deadline. Rodgers throws 3 touchdown passes, all to Devontae Adams, 12 targets, 7 catches, 53 yards. That last one just had us basically laughing on the Slack channel. Robert Tonyan, 7 targets, 5 catches, 79 yards. And Jamal Williams, 102 total yards. Tags Thursday night game here against the Niners. So I'm not expecting to see Aaron Jones in this game, in which case Jamal Williams, of course, is another guy who you start without thinking too much about it. But anything to take away here from the Packers, Tags?
Not too much. I'm curious to see who they bring in. Will Fuller's the one that's being tied to them. There's like a lot of reports out there that they've inquired about Will Fuller. The Texans are clearly sellers at this point. They should be sellers if they're not going to retain Fuller. So it's something to watch for sure, because it would, I don't even want to say it would drag down Devontae Adams' stock. If anything, it would hurt someone like Alan Lazard, by the way. And if you guys don't know, Alan Lazard was practicing with the team this week. So therefore I expect him to probably be back on that Thursday night game. I think that he has value if they don't trade for a wide receiver, but if they do, it becomes a little sketchier, right? But Marquez Valdes-Scantling would be off the map completely if they sign someone like Will Fuller. But yeah, I mean, it's a situation to remain fluid with. You don't think Aaron Jones is going to be back, which is crazy. I actually listed him as someone that I would probably try and I'd put out feelers there to see what I could sell him for, because I think Jamal Williams has played well enough to the point where they're going to make this a timeshare similar to what it was last year. And if you remember last year, Aaron Jones was the number 2 running back in fantasy football. However, it was heavily reliant upon touchdowns. And if Aaron Rodgers is throwing touchdowns at the rate that he is, it's like, I'm not saying you should get a lot in return, but Dan, are you willing to put out the feelers for Aaron Jones in a trade because of Jamal Williams with the way he's played?
Sure. You mean, if I roster Jones?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because I do think that Williams has looked good. Like he's looked very solid running the ball. And I don't expect Jones to come back here and just take over quite as much of the share of the backfield that he did. And again, to be clear, I have no inside information on Thursday. He just hasn't practiced. And if he hasn't practiced with a calf injury, I'm just not expecting him then to be able to suddenly be like, oh, great, you're going to have essentially a walkthrough and go out there on Thursday night. So I'm with you there. For the Saints, it's funny, Tags. I was wondering what happened in this game because I turned it off and I was like, I don't know by Tags' reaction. The Saints win 26-23 here. Not the best weather, not the worst weather, anything like that. Drew Brees does throw 2 touchdown passes, one to Jared Cook, who we talked about, and one, of course, to Taysom Hill, which is what everybody should be expecting. But it's really all about Alvin Kamara at this point. We had no Michael Thomas. You had no Emmanuel Sanders. Kamara, 12 for 67 on the ground, plus 13 targets, 9 catches, 96 yards. I don't really know if there's much to take away here, Tags, given that there is no Michael Thomas and there's no Emmanuel Sanders. Are there any takeaways that you can make from the Saints side of the ball at this point?
Not really. No, the weather got better as the day progressed here, because in the morning here in Chicago, it was crazy. I went for a walk before, like, it's always my Sunday routine to just go for like a 15-minute walk, and it was freezing outside and it was cold. It was windy. It was bad, but it got better for this game. Ultimately, I don't think there's any surprises. Kamara getting 13 targets in the passing game, that's going to happen when Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas are out. Alvin Kamara's workload is going to decrease as we move forward, because Michael Thomas is walking back into a role. He's going to see 8+ targets per game. We know that. Jared Cook plays a different position. He's going to get his targets as the tight end. Emmanuel Sanders was growing into his role, like developing some sort of chemistry with Drew Brees as those weeks went on. So if anybody's losing some value here, it's going to be Kamara. But I mean, let's not pretend that you're going to consider benching or trading Kamara, because he's like probably the best running back in football right now.
That's what I mean. There's nothing you can do about it. He's just up there. He's amazing, and he's going to maintain his value. And there really is very few others who do have value. For the Bears, look, we talked about Montgomery, 21 for 89. That's going to do it. Plus 2 for 16. That's plenty of production. If you don't find the end zone, that's fine. Nick Foles does throw 2 touchdown passes. One to Allen Robinson, who again was doubtful and then upgraded on Saturday because of the concussion. 6 catches for 87 yards, and Mooney 5 catches, 69 yards, and the touchdown. Meanwhile, Anthony Miller, 11 targets, 8 catches, 73 yards, which I really like to see. Of course, we saw Wims. I don't know how long he's going to be gone for at this point, but had an interesting fight. So how do you feel here, Tags? Does this move the needle for anybody, whether it's Miller, whether it's Mooney? Does this game move the needle for you at all for the Bears?
I don't want to be associated with the Bears if I can help it. I mean, Darnell Mooney is someone that's played better. Like, he even had a deep route in this game. Like, everybody saw it on primetime when Nick Foles missed him on the sideline when he juked Jalen Ramsey out of his shoes. And then this game, he beat Marshawn Lattimore at the seam and like went to like kind of like a post route that's cutting up field. And then all of a sudden it's like Foles throws the ball to the outside towards the sideline. It's like, it was a ball that you literally float up there and you let your receiver run under it. It should have been a long completion, if not a touchdown, and he just missed it. Nick Foles is playing like crap. He basically drops back and he's throwing off his back foot. The mechanics are bad. The offensive line is bad. Yeah, I mean, Allen Robinson's the only one that I really am excited to roster on this team. That's it.
But you are starting Dave Montgomery every week, right? Pretty much.
You are, because I mean, he's a running back that's locked in. Like ever since
Yeah.
Tariq Cohen's gone down, like David Montgomery's getting a top 10, like in terms of weighted opportunity. He's way up there. So even if he's inefficient, he's definitely worth starting. But it's not exciting. It's more like he's a role player on a championship team. He is not going to carry you to a fantasy championship.
I completely agree with that. At the same time, role players are, you need
them. You do need some stability. I agree.
You do. And he's really what he is. Broncos 31, Chargers 30, Chargers gonna Charger. Drew Lock, who looks terrible for most of the game. You and I were talking about it. He winds up throwing 3 touchdown passes, one to Deshaun Hamilton, who has 4 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, one to KJ Hamler at the very end, 13 yards. That's it. Not too much with the touchdown. And Albert O with his 1 catch, great catch, 9 yards and a touchdown. Meanwhile, Jerry Jeudy does see 10 targets, which I love, 4 catches for 73 yards. Again, Tim Patrick was out in this game. I don't know whether or not we're going to see Jeudy get involved. We'll talk about the running game in a minute, but I guess give me the passing game here, Tags. I mean, you saw Deshaun Hamilton get involved, but really Jeudy was the one who was getting targeted all the time. And Noah Fant, by the way, 9 targets, 7 catches, 47 yards. So is Jeudy somebody who I think fantasy managers have been desperately hoping they can grow to rely on at some point? Do you think he's going to get there? And is this a step in the right direction?
Well, it's nice as you're seeing him play on the perimeter a little bit more, because I didn't want to see him. It's nice to see receivers get like put into the slot, because like a lot of times you can create mismatches, but you don't want them pigeonholed there, because teams can game plan against that. They could stop it. There's a lot of things they could do. So moving them around does make sense. But Jerry Jeudy, the reason I'm excited is because this team obviously finished the game pretty well. Drew Lock finished the game well. They were well behind. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter here. It's going to give them a lot of confidence going into this week 9 game they have against the Atlanta Falcons. And that's a matchup that everybody just looks at. They circle, you circle that. So Drew Lock is a guy that I would consider streaming in that matchup. Jerry Jeudy is probably going to be ranked in like wide receiver 3 territory against Isaiah Oliver in the slot the majority of time. So if Tim Patrick comes back, he's coming back off a hamstring injury. He may not be 100%. We don't know if he's going to play yet, but I would assume he'll be ready for this game. So that's going to cut more into Deshaun Hamilton in the production that he has on the field, because I'm pretty sure KJ Hamler is ahead of him on the depth chart. Even if the targets don't align with that right now. So I'm happy for the passing game ultimately, because they gave us some confidence to play these guys in a great, like probably one of the best matchups you can have all year next week.
Meanwhile, for the running backs, I mean, Melvin Gordon, 8 carries, 26 yards, and he gets involved through the air. He has 7 targets, 6 catches, 21 yards, but Phillip Lindsay just looks better. 6 carries, 83 yards with the touchdown. How does this backfield break down going forward?
Bang your head against a wall. Phillip Lindsay had a great carry. Like his 55-yard touchdown was like, it was a run. Melvin Gordon wouldn't have scored in that play. And that's the thing. I've been saying Phillip Lindsay's a really, really, really good running back. Melvin Gordon's really good too, but Phillip Lindsay, that was crazy vision and manipulation in terms of what he did with the defenders in the play. I loved it. But if this is a 50-50 timeshare, this is not a high scoring offense, guys. It's really not. I know they scored 31 points in this game, but if you look at the Broncos as a team, you're just like, I'm not really excited about owning parts of the offense. So I need to rethink this backfield altogether, because clearly Lindsay, I figured that with Lindsay being not even cleared from the concussion protocol until basically today.
Right.
I know yesterday, like he passed all but 1 test and we didn't even know if he was going to play. Then it was like, all right, maybe Melvin Gordon against his former team. There's a little bit of a revenge narrative there. He's been in practice all week, yada, yada. But I mean, the last 2 times that these two have taken the field, it seems like Lindsay's the guy that they almost want to trust more. But Melvin Gordon has a bigger role in the passing game. So I guess it just depends on game script.
Meanwhile, you asked me why I had Joshua Kelly ranked so high. I told you I had him projected for a touchdown. That was an error in projections.
That was the first thing I asked Dan this morning. I was like, Dan, why do you have Joshua Kelly so high?
Legitimately, I woke up and that was what was waiting for me. When I saw it, I was like, I know I haven't projected for a touchdown. I was like, and I'm in that area of running backs where I hate everybody. So I'm just going to trust my projections. I should not have. I should have overridden the projections. Justin Jackson, though, 17 for 89 on the ground. He looks real good here. And he also catches 3 passes for 53 yards. But Pope gets involved, 10 carries, 67 yards, and 5 catches for 28 yards. Kelly is, I guess, irrelevant at this point. How do you feel about Jackson and or Pope going forward with Eckler out?
Pope. No. Pope, nope. Like nope for Pope.
Nice.
My slogan for week 9.
Goodness.
Can you tell it's just late? We're delirious for all this
Yes.
stuff. But no, Justin Jackson's clearly the guy. We talked about it last week in the fact that because he didn't practice all week, it was like, did that contribute to him not getting a whole lot of touches? And it seems that that's the case. This game, it seemed to be out of reach. I think that they were playing it like that, but I also think they're kind of sick and tired of Joshua Kelly being Joshua Kelly, being like a Sean Green type running back that's just like a plotter out there that you can, I don't know. He just hasn't looked particularly great. He's not a true 3-down back. So when's Austin Eckler coming back? I think that's the question we all want to know, because at least we can get some stability out of this backfield. But as of now, Justin Jackson with Eckler out, I will consider him a low end RB2, high end RB3, whereas Joshua Kelly is just an emergency RB4.
I'm not thinking that Austin Eckler is coming back anytime soon. I was taking the over on whatever it is. I mean, you heard that injury when it first happened, so I think we're stuck with this for a little while. So hopefully we can get by with Jackson. Meanwhile, tags Justin Herbert does throw 3 touchdowns. Again, from a fantasy perspective anyway, he produces. It looks like maybe there's room for both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I mean, Williams 8 targets, 5 catches, 99 yards, and the score, almost the second one. Keenan Allen, 11 targets, 9 catches, 67 yards, and the score. Can you start Mike Williams now, or are we trusting him after last week's dud?
I don't trust it's a funny word. And it takes a lot to require trust out of me. It's really going to be matchup dependent, because when you flex in targets from 3 to 8 targets, and it's like, Denver's a team that the reason I wanted to like Mike Williams a little bit more this week is because you were not going to be able to run the ball in Denver. Denver's like, in terms of weighted opportunity, they are the best in the NFL at points per opportunity to running backs. So I felt like they weren't going to be able to run the ball. So I was like, all right, there should be enough targets here. Keenan Allen's going to do his thing, but Mike Williams, he's a guy that's always got a shot for 2 touchdowns. So you kind of put him in that territory, right? Like, is it much different than like a Devontae Parker right now? No. And Williams has better quarterback play, arguably, right now. So I think that you should consider him as like a low end wide receiver 3.
Yes. I think I had him ranked there this week, maybe a little lower than that. But yeah, I think that that's right. I try not to buy too much into one game, whichever way we see it. This is a little bit more of what I was expecting. Herbert's going to throw. So I agree with you there. Let's get to our final game. Seahawks 37. 49ers 27. Russell Wilson throws 4 touchdown passes. I debated for a long time who was my number 1 quarterback, Mahomes or Wilson. I chose wrong, but I'm not that beat up about it, considering that he threw 4 touchdowns. Right. Meanwhile, Chris Carson out, Carlos Hyde out, DJ Dallas in, 18 for 41 on the ground, plus a touchdown. And he also gets a receiving touchdown, catches all 5 of his targets for 17 yards. Let's start there, I guess. If Chris Carson's out for a while and Carlos Hyde, I mean, where do you think DJ Dallas would basically rank for you weekly? Would it be a borderline RB2?
I mean, with the touches he got in this game, walked away with some success. I mean, not crazy success, but it was the 49ers, tough run defense.
Yep.
I think Chris Carson's going to be back because he was questionable for this game. Like, they didn't announce him as out until until the inactives came out, hour and a half before the game or so. So I do think he's going to be back. He's a guy that said he really does want to prove people that he can play all 16 games, even though he missed a game. But yeah, I mean, it's a starting running back, and they're running out of him, right? Travis Homer was a little banged up coming into this game, so to see him get 1 carry was a little bit shocking because he was active. Yeah. But DJ Dallas was the guy, and they won the football game, so I'm sure that they're pretty happy with his performance. Yeah, I would probably put him in that conversation because it would be a better matchup, because this is probably one of the worst he could have against the 49ers. So I'd probably put him in that mid to low end RB2 range if he was a starter again.
Meanwhile, DK Metcalf, just a huge game, sets all sorts of career highs, 15 targets, 12 catches, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is awesome. Tyler Lockett, quiet here, 5 targets, 4 catches, 33 yards. Are you just going to have to deal with the occasional quiet game from one or both these guys, but they're both wide receiver 1s going forward?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that is the correct answer.
Wonderful. Good enough for me. For the 49ers, everyone is injured and the game is over. Thank you for coming. Tevin Coleman starts, he gets injured. Jimmy Garoppolo starts, plays terribly, leaves with, I guess, an aggravation of his injury. George Kittle, just 2 for 39, and he gets injured. Schefter tweeted out as we were doing this that x-rays are negative, but again, Thursday game coming up here, tags. None of these guys are going to play. JaMychal Hasty doesn't play all that well, but he does find the end zone, 12 for 29, as does Jerick McKinnon in garbage time with Nick Mullins. Brandon Ayuk also late. Both he and Bourne get involved with no Deebo Samuel. 11 targets for Ayuk, 8 catches, 91 yards, and the touchdown. Bourne, 10 targets, 8 catches, 81 yards. So, I mean, I don't know. Tags, we've got a Thursday game against Green Bay going up. I don't even know how we're supposed to evaluate this team, but that's your job. So what do you think?
Well, with the running backs, we already know it's Kyle Shanahan backfield. I talked about it in the live stream this morning.
Okay. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulties. We got some storms in the area. Tags, you were talking, I believe, about JaMychal Hasty and how nobody ever wants to trust anybody.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That's where we left off. And even when Raheem Mostert comes back, it's like you wonder at the end of last year, do you remember Raheem Mostert was a guy that was running phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like almost like 6 yards per carry, yet they were limiting him to like 12 carries per game. And until they got to the playoffs, and then things changed. With the way that Hasty has played, which like the roles that they're carving out for some of these players with the affinity that Kyle Shanahan has for Tevin Coleman, it's like you wonder, is like, can you trust any of these guys on a weekly basis? I think the answer is no.
Yeah. And again, Hasty almost lost a fumble here. It was very close to doing that. It's just, I don't know, man. It's against Green Bay, so it's a good matchup for running backs, but I don't know. I probably will have Hasty as a borderline start. Same thing with McKinnon. And Tags, I mean, Ayuk, this was kind of his we thought it was a good start here with Deebo Samuel out. And Bourne, again, who basically produced early in the year when Samuel was out and produces now. And I realized it was late with Mullins. Are you going to start Are you going to start Bourne next week against the Packers, or was this just sort of a one-time thing?
This was really a one-time thing against the Seattle Seahawks, where it's a team that had allowed, I think, coming into this game, they had played 6 games. They had allowed 12 wide receivers to finish with 15 or more PPR points against them. So it was like, it was just a matchup you had to attack because you knew the ball had to go somewhere. Bourne should have had a bigger game. He was running down the seam, literally had his hand up in the air, nobody within 10 yards of him, and Garoppolo, he just looked the other way, and then he threw an interception on that play. So Garoppolo's had a really bad game.
Yeah, it's just end the stream, Chris. It doesn't matter. Just say technical difficulties. So that's one. Tags, you can finish up for the pod.
Yeah. So with Kendrick Bourne, I'm not going to rely on it every single week, but if Deebo Samuel is out, he's someone you could rely on it for an emergency option, because again, with games that Deebo Samuel has missed this year, which has been 4 or 5 of them, he's seen at least 5 targets in all those games. So he does have some sort of value.
Yeah. And again, Samuel is expected to be out next week. All right.